ways to transform your workplace to be more equitable. They changed it from 3 ways to decenter your whiteness, I believe. And it's just the most insane article. It's like maybe if you were a college student and you need to, like, it's like listicle articles. Remember listicles where it's 5 ways to hack something, hack your sleep or something. That's the way it's written. This girl just threw stuff together. She just throws words together. It's written like a poor college student's blog post for a fake company they had to make up for a marketing project, but it's for in Forbes. Let's read a little bit of it and laugh at it. White centering can be thought of as a system that prioritizes white dominant culture to the detriment of non-white groups and cultures. So already we've gone and said anyone who's not white is the same, right? Or at the very least, white people are different from all other races. It's been giving many names, including the white gaze and whiteness as the default. I don't know where you get these names from. They're just links to other Forbes articles. Oh, catalyst.org. And they mentioned this a couple times. There are an infinite number of ways that whiteness, um, hold on. There are an infinite number of ways where whiteness is centered within organizations. And then there's so many ways that we have to go back to 2004 to a study, which I believe was done in Australia, that found that black sounding names were less likely to receive callbacks. So 2 decades later, a separate study replicated these findings. This is what I call the what's his name, Hunter Avallone way of thinking. I debated him a little bit. John Doyle's debated him a couple times, where it's just like you have this conclusion, and then you just go and Google a study, which of course you're going to find because liberals create these articles to justify everything. And you just say, oh, 20 years ago, this happened. And I found another study recently. Therefore, this happened. Like, there's no intellectuality to it whatsoever. It's a person just, I've Googled this and I've Googled that. And I don't understand the topic at all. But here are I've connected these dots and therefore it's true. You know, white chocolate is better than brown chocolate or dark chocolate. Here's a study from 2004 that showed 35% of people liked white chocolate over 30% of the other things. And then 20 years later, people also said that this was true. Therefore, it must be true. Case closed, you guys. That's what these are. And again, same thing, applicant tracking system. They found evidence that legacy ATS platforms enable inequitable hiring process that leads to severe discrimination among black and Asian candidates. I mean, we know that it doesn't because Asians make way more money than any other race. Asians and Indians and Koreans, people like that in both Canada and the United States. So we know they're not being um, held back, you know? They are being stopped at Harvard applications, or they were, and it was because they were too smart. So now we have to go. Now we're finding that apparently this whole time Asians were being kept from getting jobs. White centering also impacts the advancement and promotion process in a number of ways. The concrete ceiling, so like this term that somebody just made up, describes the additional barriers that women of color face. So again, everybody but white people, and in this case white women, face barriers that make it harder for them to get promotions. Even though this, like, it was not enough for people to say this about women, even though everybody knows why. They don't take as many Women don't take as many risks. They're afraid to ask. But that wasn't enough because we had to make it so specific people could get jobs because there's too much competition if you say, I write about women's studies and I write about how women don't get promotions as often as men. And then person at Forbes is like, we got 30 other women that can write about that. Yeah, but I write about it specifically from a black perspective. Okay, we only have 5 people doing that, so I think we can hire you as well. So it says they face barriers. A 2019 Coquel study indicated that 65% of black professionals feel they have to work harder to advance to compared to their white counterparts. So we've gone from I cited 2 studies to then something that says people feel a certain way. But you know just as well if we had a study here that said, Japanese people felt that, you know, they don't get they have it worse somehow. they have it worse than black people. That would not be allowed. You couldn't just, for any other thing, white people specifically, you couldn't just say 65% of white people feel this, therefore it's true. That would be called, white centrism, wouldn't it? Isn't that exactly what it would be called if they had a race-based study based on the feelings of a particular race and said this is their feelings, therefore it's true? They would categorize that as whiteness. Asian Americans face many workplace challenges and are the group that is least likely to be promoted to management positions, according to a 2018 article. None of these things prove that it's white people's fault. None of it proves that it's whiteness. What if what if the Asian person's boss is a black person? What if the black person's boss is Asian? You'd need so much data to prove that this is because of their race that it's insane. Harvard Business Review article. That's ironic. It really is. The Harvard Business Review article is saying that Asians face the most challenges when they were keeping Asians out of Harvard. Isn't that wonderful? The ways that whiteness is centered in the workplace are endless. Again, it's so many endless examples that they were able to get a study from 20 years ago, the same thing, I guess, from when 2018 or something, and then an opinion poll that black people or black women, or 2/3 of them actually, have feelings about something. And then we get past their ads. Here are the ways you can fix it, you guys. Education. Despite the best laid plans of corporate America, DEI efforts haven't been as successful as anticipated. Huh. What do you know? It's almost as if people don't believe it. According to another report that explored workplace racism, whiteness as the default plays a pivotal role in allowing racist behaviors to continue. Are you guys hearing this? Any white people at home? Are you guys hearing this? Have you ever been in a workplace where everybody just says, we'd like to keep the default here as the white thing to do? That is not a thing. I don't know about other people. I've never been another race or claimed to be. But there's no like white community. There's no group for decentering whiteness. There's no group for centering whiteness. There's no like thing. There's no like racial harmony between white people. There isn't just like a white meeting. There isn't conversations about, let's keep these things white or anything like that. That just doesn't happen. The idea of being white is not a thing that white people talk about unless it's in relation to articles like this where they're saying all white people are the same or white people are the problem. Otherwise, it's people making fun of me for being French, my friends for being Irish, Russian, whatever. That's what it is. And of course, all of our friends of other races. Like, it's really wild how most of these things, like Forbes had to go out and find a woman to talk about this. If you were at a right wing outlet, you would just have, a black guy or a black woman who does this sort of stuff, or like not this stuff, but you could just ask them, and they'd just be like, no. But they have to go out and there's a reason they have to go out and find and foster this type of content because it doesn't naturally exist. There's no, like Candace Owens or like Drea Humphrey at Rebel News or pick your the girl from GB News, I forget her name. Pick your non-white woman in media and be like, write an article about, whatever you want. None of them are picking up and being like the decentering the whiteness, the reason why I'm mistreated because of my skin color. It's such a weird thing to come up with that it has to be a thing that you have to go out and find because it's insane. It's insanity is what I was going to say, but it's insane for this to be what you want to. I'm tackling this person's like job is going out and tackling these issues, but their evidence is opinion poll and study from 2004. And this is the Hunter Avallone School of Theology or of racial studies. I googled something, therefore I found a couple of things that agree with me. I didn't really read them, but they're called the same thing that I'm writing about, so it's true. And if you try to argue with this, I'll say, but look, the studies prove it. So these studies are here, and then it proves it. This problem is amplified because of the lack of understanding and awareness of how whiteness as system, which doesn't make any sense, obviously, missing A there, is prioritized in our workplaces. Notice how they don't say like what exactly that means. The acceptance of white dominant culture is the norm. What is that? Is it, bagels for lunch? Is it root beer? I don't know what that means because it's not a thing. If you said Irish culture, I'd think you were eating potatoes and drinking Guinness at lunch. And if your company was run by Irish people, I'd say that's probably why the reason is. But, women like this, people like this who are writing these insane articles, they seem to think that, like, have this racist view. Isn't it interesting how it's like all these things are racist towards me, but when I talk about the white people, it's extremely generic and generalized as if they're all the same, Like I don't have like you know I'm not a big fan of the Greek guys. That's not the we're not the same just because we're white. Just like I like to use the example of like a Nigerian guy versus a black guy from Chicago. Going to be very different. And imagine if somebody said that black people across the world were all the same, blackness. But this is what they're saying, whiteness. It's so strange. And it's like nobody cares unless they're making money off of it. Nobody cares unless there can be a DEI effort, as you will see. There you go. Inviting experts and educators to facilitate learning is paramount. DEI efforts will not be successful if there's a lack of education around. So this woman just basically exists to promote herself getting paid. You hire a guy who's like, let's say he runs a basketball training camp or a football training camp. I just watched football. And you say, write about whatever you want. And he says, what the world actually needs is way more football camps. And the lower aggression, people will have more jobs, people will be in better shape. And if we don't start opening more football camps, then things are going to get worse. So the best thing that people can do is open a football camp, pay 16 trainers, pay a nutritionist, and an exact, football scientist of some kind, the one who studies the angles and the best places to put the ball and everything like that, and statistics. Find a few of those analysts. That's really the best thing you can do. Is it any wonder that they hire a girl whose entire existence in the media landscape is to call things racist and get people paid for saying things like this? Is it any wonder that that's what she's promoting? Like they didn't just hire, some sort of scientist and say, go where the study takes you and write about that, no matter what it might be. They just say, I wonder what this woman's going to write about. And that's exactly the point. They would say that's exactly what the point is. Because you need it. Within workplace cultures, there are values, norms, and more that employees quickly adapt to. These learned behaviors guide our understanding and influence our actions. How often do we stop to interrogate what is considered normal in the work? None of this is real. Decenter workplace whiteness norms. That's not a real thing. Accountability. Every employee should be responsible for the environment. Yeah, they are. In the workplace, she just goes over and over the same thing. It's exactly like a terrible. Well, what do you know? I promise you guys I didn't see this ahead of time. I founded an award-winning DEI consultancy. She's literally just promoting her own business.
Turn it up, Jordan.